One's pure Detroit steel and cigarette smoke. The other's a high-tech rocket ship that could outrun its own ancestors. Today, we're putting the 1967 Mustang GT, the legend that started it all, against the 2020 Shelby GT 500, Ford's 760 horsepower superweapon. Old school muscle versus new school monster. Let's settle this once and for all. The soul of two eras. The 1967 Mustang GT wasn't just a car, it was attitude on wheels. When you turned that metal key, the 390 cubic inch V8 didn't politely start, it woke up furious. It shook the mirrors, rattled your chest, and told everyone within 2 blocks that you meant business. With 320 horsepower in the 60s, this thing was a street brawler dressed in chrome. The GT badge wasn't decoration, it was a warning. Fog lights gleamed from the grille, twin exhausts snarled out back, and the long, fastback silhouette begged you to throw on aviators and disappear down Route 66. Everything about it was mechanical and alive. The smell of fuel, the vibration through the floor, the sound that echoed off every diner window you passed. It didn't need traction control or drive modes. It just needed a brave driver and an open road. Fast forward 53 years, and the 2020 Shelby GT 500 isn't here to growl, it's here to obliterate physics. Under its sculpted hood lives a 5.2-liter supercharged V8 nicknamed the Predator. It spits out 760 horsepower, more than double its ancestors' might thanks to a 2.65-liter Eaton supercharger that sounds like it's inhaling air for breakfast. The GT 500 isn't puffing on carburetors, it's gulping down atmosphere and converting it into controlled chaos. Every press of the throttle is like lighting a fuse. It doesn't just roar, it howls like a jet engine at a Metallica concert, furious, yet refined. The old Mustang was rebellion in denim. The new one is power in a lab coat. One shook the earth, the other bends it. But both, in their own way, make you feel something no touchscreen ever will. Pure, unfiltered horsepower meeting human heartbeat. Power versus personality. The 67 Mustang GT wasn't just about speed, it was about feeling. Every drive was a small battle between man and machine. The shifter bit back if you weren't respectful, the clutch felt like a gym workout, and the throttle always carried a hint of danger. Push too hard, and that 390 V8 would remind you who was boss. 0 to 60 in 7.3 seconds might sound tame now, but back then, that was warp speed. It didn't just move, you felt every explosion inside those cylinders, every shake through the steering column. Even the brakes had personality, more like a polite suggestion than a command. Jump to 2020, and the Shelby GT 500 lives in a different universe. 3.3 seconds to 60. Blink, and it's already passing the speed limit with a smirk. The 7-speed dual-clutch transmission shifts faster than you can form the word wow. You don't wrestle this car, it's too intelligent for that. You negotiate with it through drive modes, normal for errands, sport for weekends, drag for straight-line chaos, track for serious business, and one final mode that might as well be called I'm probably going to jail. But here's the paradox. Ask any old-school Mustang owner, and they'll grin. Yeah, mine's slower, but it feels faster. Because the 67 made you part of the process. You smelled the fuel, heard the carb cough, felt the tires slip on hot asphalt. The GT 500, for all its perfection, makes chaos look easy. It's violence, managed by silicon. One makes your pulse race because it's alive. The other because it's untouchable. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the old one still tugs at our hearts, while the new one redefines our limits. The looks that kill. The 67 Mustang GT is timeless, an icon frozen in chrome and gasoline. That long hood, that tight short deck, and those curves that could make a jukebox blush, it was pure Americana on 4 wheels. Park one anywhere, and you'll hear it instantly. They don't build them like that anymore, and they're right. The sheet metal was metal, heavy, honest, and ready to be straightened with a hammer and some luck. No plastic panels, no sensors whining about alignment, just raw craftsmanship that smelled of oil and rebellion. That fastback silhouette didn't just turn heads, it shaped generations of car design. Even Steve McQueen made it legendary in Bullitt, chasing villains through San Francisco's hills, while the exhaust barked like gunfire. The 67 wasn't just a car, it was confidence with taillights. Then there's the 2020 Shelby GT 500, a Mustang reimagined for the digital age. This beast looks like it was forged in a wind tunnel by someone who thought subtle was a four-letter word. Massive haunches, vented hood, carbon fiber wheels, everything screams purpose. It's not here to pose, it's here to dominate. Where the old GT was a sculpture you admired, the new one is a missile you pilot. The GT 500 doesn't have gentle lines, it has edges that bite back. You don't fix it with a wrench. You call a NASA engineer with a laptop, it's part muscle car, part supercar, all attitude. One's art you hang in a garage, tracing the curves with nostalgia. The other's a weapon disguised as a daily driver, capable of turning rubber into smoke and time into blur. Different eras, same soul. Two Mustangs that prove power can be beautiful, whether forged in fire or designed by airflow. Soundtrack of power. Start the 67 Mustang GT and time rewinds itself. That big block 390 doesn't just start, it awakens. The burble is uneven, rough, and completely unfiltered. It's not trying to sound good, it just does. Every pulse from the exhaust is a heartbeat, a reminder that this machine is powered by fire and fury. It doesn't idle. It loiters with intent, like it's deciding whether to cruise Main Street or start a bar fight. People don't turn their heads because it's loud. They turn because it's alive. There's something almost human about it. The sound of pistons, valves, and imperfect timing dancing together in mechanical harmony. Then you hit the start button on the 2020 Shelby GT 500, and all that nostalgia gets sucker punched by science. The ground doesn't just tremble, it reverberates. The 5.2-liter Predator V8 explodes into life with the confidence of a thunderstorm. You've got exhaust modes, normal, sport, track, and the infamous neighbor complaint setting for when diplomacy fails. Twist the dial to track, and it screams past 8,000 RPM like it's tearing through the atmosphere. The sound isn't just noise, it's data, tuned through pipes and algorithms to create something violent yet precise. It practically cuts the air in half. But here's the kicker. Despite 5 decades of evolution, both cars hit you the same way. They don't just make sound, they make music you feel in your chest. The 67 is a smoky blues solo played through a tube amp. The GT 500 is heavy metal, through stadium speakers. Two eras, one shared rhythm, pure, unfiltered Mustang soul. The numbers game. Let's talk cold, hard numbers because nostalgia is great, but physics doesn't lie. The 1967 Mustang GT tipped the scales at about 3,400 pounds. Under its hood lived a 390 cubic inch V8, making 320 horsepower, good enough to run the quarter mile in 15.2 seconds. Back then, that was fast. Fast enough to dust off most street challengers and still have time to adjust your sunglasses before the next stoplight. It was pure muscle. No tricks, no driver assist, just guts, gears, and gasoline. Now, cue the 2020 Shelby GT 500. It weighs around 4,150 pounds, but don't let that fool you. It's packing 760 horsepower of supercharged fury. That's over twice the power of its grandfather, and it shows. The GT 500, Shaku demolishes the quarter mile in 11.3 seconds at 131 miles per hour, leaving behind a blur of tire smoke and broken egos. This thing doesn't accelerate, it launches. On the track, the difference isn't even close. The new Shelby would humiliate the old GT, lap after lap, rain or shine, without breaking a sweat. And when it's time to stop, The 67 had optional front discs that would fade faster than a mixtape left in the sun. The GT 500, on the other hand, comes with massive 16.5-inch Brembos, the biggest brakes ever fitted to a Mustang, bringing it to a dead stop from 60 miles per hour in about 100 feet. One's a hammer, simple, brutal, and effective. The other's a hypersonic missile, calculated, relentless, and terrifyingly fast. Both serve the same purpose, but in very different centuries. The feel factor. Driving the 67 Mustang GT isn't transportation, it's theater. The steering is heavy enough to count as a workout, the clutch feels like it's testing your loyalty, and every corner is a gamble between glory and guardrail. You don't drive it because it's easy. You drive it because it matters. Every shift, every rumble, every vibration feels like a handshake with the past. It's an event, loud, unpredictable, imperfect, and absolutely alive. Behind the wheel, you're not insulated from the world. You're part of it. You hear the gears whine, smell the gasoline, and feel the heat radiating through the floorboards. It's raw connection, a car that demands respect and rewards bravery. Then there's the 2020 Shelby GT 500, the modern miracle. It's so good it almost feels unfair. You can hammer the throttle, hit 130 miles per hour in total composure, and still have the AC blowing ice cold, while your Spotify playlist plays crystal clear. Launch control? Perfect every time. Corners? Magnaride suspension reads the road like Braille and keeps you locked in. It's a car that doesn't ask, "Can you handle me?" It smirks and asks, "How fast do you want it?" But take away the nostalgia, and the old GT isn't really competing. It's reminding us of something we've quietly lost, the mechanical bond between man and machine. Back then, driving wasn't about efficiency or perfection. It was about connection. The modern GT 500 is thrilling, but the 67 reminds us why we fell in love with cars in the first place. Verdict: what wins? So who wins? If you're talking raw numbers, the 2020 Shelby GT 500 doesn't just win, it obliterates. It's faster, smarter, safer, and capable of lapping the old 67 Mustang GT before that big block even finishes clearing its throat. The GT 500 would beat it to the next gas station back and still have time to check tire pressures. It's a technological masterpiece, 760 horsepower of American engineering flexing at its peak. But numbers aren't everything, because if you're talking soul, that intangible magic that makes people fall in love with cars, the 67 Mustang GT still punches way above its weight. It's slower, louder, thirstier, and less forgiving, but that's exactly why it's unforgettable. It doesn't do anything for you. You have to do everything for it. You earn every shift, every mile, every grin. The GT 500 delivers perfection. The 67 delivers personality. One is precision-built for domination. The other is flawed in all the ways that make it human. Maybe the answer isn't old school or new school. Maybe the real magic lies in the fact that one paved the way for the other, that every line of code in the GT 500 traces its DNA back to that raw 1967 roar. Without the 67, there's no Shelby legacy. Just two eras of the same heartbeat, one with grit, one with grip. So here's the real question. If you could only pick one, the old school icon or the new school monster, which would you take for a Sunday drive? Drop your choice below, hit subscribe, and keep this legendary rivalry alive. And that's the legacy of the Mustang. Two eras, one heartbeat. The 67 gave us soul. The GT 500 gave us speed. Both prove power fades, but passion doesn't. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and tell us, old school rumble or new school roar? Which Mustang would you take for one unforgettable drive?